So we'll now move to the 2015 A-level paper, question number 2. 15 again is a good A-level paper, guys. 2013, 2015 are good papers, are usually a little bit hard, but not everything is hard, comparatively hard. Okay, what are the factors held constant in drawing a market supply curve? Same thing, they ask it in different ways. In other words, you need to know, apart from price, everything else, all other determinants of supply are held constant. Rather than asking what are the other factors affecting supply, they have asked what are the other factors held constant when drawing the supply curve. Same thing, right? What are the things, guys? So price of inputs, maybe you can say cost of production also, the technology, correct? Price of related goods, okay. Government policies like taxes and subsidies, okay. Future price expectations, correct? Okay, so you can write all of that. Remember, guys, question number 2, the first sub question is always the easiest sub question in the paper, guys. Very easy, right? So this is one. This is proof of that. Okay, this is done. We'll move to the next one. Describe how the income effect and substitution effect explain the law of demand. Now, this one, it's a very basic area, but I'll still take some time to explain this because I know some people don't know this, right? You all, I have seen you all writing a little bit of rubbish. Okay? It's a very basic area, but still, you all go and write a little bit of rubbish. Okay, so let me take like around 5-10 minutes to give you a proper, complete answer for this. Okay, let me get my note from my theory tute as well. Give me a second. Okay, give me a second. Let me get copy and paste the note from the listing. So if you all don't have a note, you all can jot it down. Hold on. Right, let's get back. So we'll start with the substitution effect. What happened to my okay, right. This looks a little weird, but okay. Why is my font in another one? Substitution effect. Okay. So listen very carefully, guys. How does this work? Now I am copying and pasting a note here, guys. Can you please tell which questions? That I'll show you when we come to a recent paper. Okay. Right. Okay. So we'll start with this. One thing is, if you know the units, you can easily figure that out. From which unit is the question coming? Right. Okay. We'll start with substitution effect, guys. What is the substitution effect? This is a very basic area. I know most of you all know this, but for the ones who are still a little confused, let me take some time. Okay. Right. Substitution effect is where, okay, now let me give you some stuff. Okay. Let's take price, quantity demanded. This is your good. Your good is what we call the concerned good. Okay. And let's also take price of substitute. Okay. I'll go with my basic example that I took even in my theory class. Okay. So let's assume that we are talking about the demand for Anchor milk powder. What is our good? Our good is Anchor milk powder. Let's say when the price of Anchor milk powder was 1,000 rupees. Let's say the 400-gram packet, I don't know what's the price now. Let's say it's 1,000. Okay. Let's say there were 100 people who were buying it. And let's say price of the concerned good is our good. So our good is what? Our good is Anchor. What is the substitute? Let's say substitute is Maliban milk powder. Okay, there is Maliban milk powder. Let's say Maliban milk powder was also 1,000 rupees. Okay. Now, what is the story? There is milk powder. Your milk powder is 1,000 rupees. There is Maliban, which is the substitute. They are also 1,000 rupees, and people are buying 100 of your good. There is a demand. Now let's say your product increases in price. Let's say the Maliban anchor milk powder, right? The concerned good becomes 1,200. Okay. Yes. What do you think will happen now in the market? What happens in the market now? Think practically and tell me. When the price of the concerned good went up, what do you think happens? Our product went to 1,200. What would people do now, guys? People would now switch to the cheaper substitute. No, did I say the price of substitute is changing? No, price of substitute is still 1,000. Remember now, this is what some people mess up, guys. Some people say in the substitution effect, price of the substitute is changing. No, price of substitute is still the same. Yeah, never go and write that. You write that, your answer is completely wrong. So in the substitution effect, what happens, guys? Let me explain this in words now. See, when the price, okay, listen very carefully, right? See how I write proper words. When the price of the concerned good, what is the concerned good? Our good, okay? When the price of the concerned good increases, while other factors, including the price of the substitute remains constant, what happens? When the price of our good increases, while all other factors, including the price of the substitute, remains constant, what happens? The relative price, right? The relative price of the concerned good, okay, not this, we'll say this, the concerned good becomes relatively expensive. Is that part clear? When the price of your good increases, while everything else is constant, your good becomes relatively expensive. Yeah, the relative price of your good goes up. What is relative price? Compared to another. Now, for example, let's say if I am charging 10,000 monthly class fees and some other teacher is charging 3,000, you can say Arshad sir is relatively expensive. My relative price is higher. Okay. So when the price of the concerned good goes up, you can say the good becomes what? Relatively expensive. As a result, what do people do? As a result, consumers switch to the cheaper substitute. So as a result, now because my product is expensive, my product price has gone up, it's relatively expensive now. So what do people do? They switch to Maliban, they switch to the cheaper substitute, resulting in what? Resulting in a decrease in quantity demanded for the concerned good. That is the complete answer on what it is. Is that clear, guys? What happens? This is what you need to know. For substitution effect, when the price increases. So what are the key things that you have to say? When the price increases, while all the other factors are constant, the good becomes relatively expensive. Therefore, what happens? Consumers switch to the cheaper substitute. As a result, your QD comes down. Price goes up, good becomes expensive, consumers switch, QD comes down. Price goes up, QD comes down. Negative relation. Then what is the opposite of this? Okay. No, in this question, you don't have to write an example, guys. I am giving example to explain, okay? What's the opposite of this? Let's say the price of this thing went down to 800, let's say. Let's say this went down to 8. Okay, now what happens? Let's say now the QD is only 80. Okay. Price goes down to 800. Price of Maliban is still the same. Can you tell me what happens now, guys? When the price of your good decreases, what happens? Your good becomes relatively what? That word has to be there. When the price of your good decreases while all other factors, including the price of substitute, is constant, your good becomes relatively what? The concerned goods becomes relatively cheaper. That you have to highlight. The concerned goods becomes relatively cheaper. Therefore, consumers who are consuming the substitute will now switch to the concerned good. Now, people who are buying Maliban now comes to your good. Why? Your good is cheaper. As a result, your quantity demanded goes up. So you need to be very careful with the wording there. So this is a type note, guys. I just put it over here. So this is how you can explain. See, just look at how I explain. Okay, I say substitution effect. When other factors remain constant, including the price of substitute. Remember, in the substitution effect, please don't go and write price of substitute is changing. It's not changing. Here in my example, Maliban is 1000, 1000, 1000. Not changing. While Maliban is constant, a change in the price of the concerned good causes a change in quantity demanded for the concerned good due to an increase or decrease in the relative price. Because your price changes, your relative price changes. It becomes relatively more expensive or it becomes relatively more cheaper. That is what you call substitution effect. Then see, I've gone and explained further. When the price of the concerned good increases, the good becomes relatively expensive and thus consumers switch to cheaper substitutes, which results in a decrease in quantity demanded for the concerned good. What is the opposite? When the price of the concerned good decreases, the good becomes relatively cheaper and thus consumers switch from the substitute, they come to your good now, from the substitute to the cheaper concerned good, which results in a decrease in quantity. So this has to be increased, no? Results in a increase, make this correction, right? Increase in quantity demanded for the concerned good. So this is a proper answer that you can give, guys. Okay, it's better to explain both the changes, or you can explain one change properly and then say vice versa. You can do that, but I think it's better if you explain both, right? Both the sides, up and down. Not that you're going to run out of time. No, it's better if you can explain both, or else you can explain one side and say vice versa. That is the substitution effect. Is that clear, guys? Focus is relative price of the good changing. Fine. Questions on that? Okay. Then we'll move to the income effect. So let me copy and paste this. Let me cut all of this, right? We'll move to the income effect. Let me copy the note from my view. This is the income effect. So what happens in the income effect now? Let me again put some numbers here. Okay. Let's say the price of a good, QD, and your income. Yes, can you quickly tell me, guys, in the income effect, is income changing? Yes or no? Now, substitution effect, we said price of substitute does not change. Income effect, does the income change? Income does not change. It's the real income or something called purchasing power that changes. Now, when you say income here, what does this income mean? This income is what you call money income. Or in other words, we also call this nominal income. This is your salary, guys. Okay. So let me put some numbers. Let's assume, okay, price of something was 100 rupees. Let's say your income is 1000. Yes, how much can you buy? If your income is 1000, some good price is 100 rupees. You're earning 1000 rupees pocket money. How much of that can you buy? You can buy 10 units. Okay. Okay. Let's say your income didn't really change. Okay. Income didn't really change. Income is still 1000. But let's say the price of the good went to 200. Now what happens, guys? Now how much can you buy? Now you can buy only 5. What happened now? Now this is what you call the income effect. when the price of the good increases, what happened? Your purchasing power fell, no? Earlier from that 1,000, you can buy 10 goods. Now when you take 1,000 and go, you can only buy 5 goods. Now, has your income changed? Has your money income or your salary or nominal income changed? No, you are still getting 1,000 rupees. But what happened? Your real income changed. So what happens here, guys? I'll just explain one side of it. Listen, right? So when the price of a good, right? When the price of the good increases, okay, while all other factors, including nominal income, remains constant, what happens? The consumer's real income, remember, real income and purchasing power is something different than nominal income. Now, what is real income or purchasing power? Real income means from the money that you have, how much of goods and services you can buy. That is what purchasing power also means. Okay. So when the price of the good increases, while all other factors, including nominal income, remains constant, the consumer's real income, or in other words, we can say purchasing power, what happens? Decreases. Because his purchasing power decreases, as a result, the quantity demand decreases. Now, because his purchasing power is low, he can't buy much now. Therefore, his quantity demanded goes down. You have to be very careful with that. Nominal income, guys, means your salary. So usually when you say income, right? When you say income, oops, what did I do? Okay. Usually when you say income, that means your nominal income or your money income. Money income means what, let's say what you're getting as salary. So you need to know the difference between what? The difference between these concepts, guys. Income, in other words, income means nominal or money income, and also this one, real income and purchasing power. Real income and purchasing power is something different from money income or nominal income. What is money income, nominal income? That is your salary. That is not changing. Don't go and say that is changing. Don't go and say income is changing. In the income effect, what is happening? When the price changes, the real income, the purchasing power is only changed. See, this is still 1,000, no? You're still earning 1,000 rupees. That has not changed. Your purchasing power or your real income has changed. As a result, you're now buying less, so buying more. Then what happens the opposite here, guys? Let's say the price of the product goes down. When the price of the product, let's say, goes down to 50, what happens? The consumer's purchasing power or real income increases now. He can buy more. As a result, his QD increases. So the note here gives a detailed explanation as well. Is that clear? You need to be very, very careful when answering this question. It's an easy one, but so many people make a lot of careless mistakes. So this question can be worded in so many different ways, guys. Now, in your A-level paper, I can say, right, one reason for the law of demand is the income effect. However, according to the law of demand, consumers' income is held constant, right? Explain. So they are trying to test you what? Do you know income effect, and do you know how come income is held constant? And so, you know, they can give you questions like that, right? Or they can say, for example, the price of a substitute is changing. As a result, QD is decreasing. This is called substitution effect. Do you agree? Explain, right? So you need to know, price of substitute changing is not substitution effect. So, you know, they can give this question in so many different ways. You need to be smart enough to figure out and get the right answer. Is that okay? Fine. The advanced step of this substitution and income effect is how does it work for a normal, inferior, and given good. That recording I said I will upload. I have not uploaded yet. I will upload it very, very soon. I have a big recording that I did for my uh, theory class students. It's a 2-hour recording. I need to cut it. So I'm finding a software to cut the video and put it onto YouTube. Once I put it, it should be available on the playlist. Okay. Right. So that question is done. We'll move to the next. Distinguish between a price flow and a price ceiling with an example for each. Means reducing income tax from the nominal income. Income tax doesn't connect to income effect, but yeah, income tax is on your nominal income. So this question is enough to talk about normal goods. Yeah, you don't have to talk about the effect, guys. So you can just talk about this. You don't have to talk about how does it work for normal good, how does it work for inferior good. Not needed. You can just talk about in general substitution effect and income. You don't have to go into this thing. So you can start the answer by saying law of demand is that there is a negative relationship. The reasons for the law of demand is substitution and income effect. Then you can explain these two effects. That can be your answer structure. Okay. Distinguish between a price flow and a price ceiling. Give me an example for each. Yes. Can you give me certain these things, guys? What can I write? How can I distinguish between a price ceiling and a price flow? Type whatever that you know. Remember, guys, you can't draw a table here, right? Don't draw a table and divide into 2 and write. It's distinguished. Give me certain factors. Okay, price flows are minimum price, fine, but that's not really a distinguishing factor. So what can you write? Okay, first of all, guys, start with why do you put a price flow and a price ceiling? What are the reasons? To benefit whom, guys? You put a price flow to benefit whom? Do you put a price ceiling to benefit whom? You can start off with that. So ideally, guys, what you can do is, okay, now for this answer, you don't have like 4 separate points now, okay? What you can do is for a nice answer format, you can write a paragraph about price flow. You can write a paragraph about price ceiling. In the 2 paragraphs, you can show the difference. So we'll start with the price flow paragraph. Tell me the main points that I can include in the price flow paragraph, guys. Okay, so this is given to benefit whom? A price flow, consumer or the producer, imposed by the government in order to benefit who? In order to benefit the producer, or when the government feels price received by the producer is unfair, to help the producer, government imposes a price flow. So this is set above the equilibrium or below the equilibrium price flow. It's set above the equilibrium price. Okay, above equilibrium price. Then what can you say, guys? Yes, to make it meaningful, above equilibrium. Correct. What can you say about excess demand or excess supply? When there is a price flow set in the market, what does it usually create? Excess demand or excess supply? It creates a excess supply in the market. You can talk about that as well. And then can you give an example, guys? An example of a price flow. Okay, so you can even say minimum wages. That's also correct. Anything else? Maybe you know. You can say price, minimum prices, right? You can say minimum prices set by the government for farmers. So our Sri Lankan government, they give minimum prices for farmers, for agricultural crops like paddy and all. There is a minimum price. So that is to this thing. Excess will be purchased by the government. That's okay, but not a very distinguishing factor. Okay. So these can be your main points, guys. Now remember, you need to write for 2 marks now, because total you're getting 4 marks. You need to write 2 marks here. Black market comes in maximum price, guys, price ceiling. Okay. Right. Now same thing, how can you write the opposite here? For price ceiling. Price ceiling is set to whom? Now remember, you're distinguishing, no? So when you're distinguishing, you need to write the same point. Then you're showing the difference, no, guys. So in your first paragraph, you say this is benefit the consumer above equilibrium. Then in your second paragraph, you can't write other nonsense. You write the opposite of this. So you need to say this is benefiting what? It benefits a consumer set below equilibrium, right? When the government feels that the equilibrium price is too high, they set it below equilibrium. And what happens? Is there excess demand or excess supply here? There is an excess demand in the market. Okay. So usually, guys, these maximum prices are or price ceilings are set for what type of goods? For what? For essential goods, right? So rice, gas cylinders, maybe coconuts, yeah, for essential goods. So you can say, for example, right, setting of maximum prices set by the government for essential goods such as rice, coconuts, gas cylinders, right, etc. You can give in something like that. So remember, two paragraphs. One paragraph price flow. You need to give the characteristics. Give an example. Why? Because they are saying give an example for it. We are not giving an example for the fun of it because they are giving marks for this. So most likely 3 marks for the points, half a mark for the example. 3 marks for the points, half a mark for the example. So you need to be very thorough with that. Is that okay? Fine. Question. Yep. Now, these are the kind of theory questions that you can get for question number 3 in your paper now, guys. Okay, very easy. There is nothing big they can ask, guys, in question number 3. Okay, right. This one, interesting question. This question didn't understand the series. Guys, a price. Okay, you can also, if you want, you can draw and show also. So you remember, guys, I'm not teaching the theory here. Okay, so you all know no? Price flow is what? A price flow is a minimum price, right? Where you set it above the equilibrium. That's a price flow. Then what's a price ceiling? A price ceiling is where you set it. You set it here, no? Give me a second. A price. Okay. A price ceiling is where you set it below equilibrium. Okay. So you can, if you want, you can draw and show. You're not going to get marks though, but at least the examiner knows, this fellow knows what he's talking about. So you can label this as maximum price or price ceiling, and you can label this as minimum price flow, and you can show that, no problem. It will add value to your answer, but it's not going to give you extra marks though. Okay. So go through the theory notes, guys, if you're not very sure what these are. Okay. Again, if you have no way of covering, YouTube videos are there. Okay. We'll come to this. Who pays most of the burden of a tax when supply is inelastic? For those who remember my shortcut, guys, what can you say? When supply is inelastic, remember my shortcut was higher the something, higher the something. Who will bear most of the tax? Remember the shortcut is higher the inelasticity, higher the tax burden. So supplier is inelastic, so supply will bear higher the tax burden, or the producer will bear a higher tax burden. That's the shortcut. But we'll draw and see, guys. So remember, you can't write the shortcut now for this. Okay. So for something like this, you have to draw, guys. So how do you draw now? We'll draw and see. Okay, let me try to draw it in proper way with my mouse. Very hard though, but let's see. Okay. Who pays this thing when supply is inelastic? So we'll draw a inelastic supply curve. The shortcut is, guys, higher the inelasticity, higher the tax burden. Whoever who is inelastic will bear most of the burden. That's the shortcut. Okay, that is good for MCQs. So here they are saying the supply is inelastic, so producer will bear higher the burden. We'll draw and see that. Okay, so there is a supply curve, there is a normal. We'll draw a normal demand curve. Okay, a normal downward sloping demand curve, inelastic supply curve. Based on this, what do we have? We have an equilibrium price. Now what happens? Government imposes a tax supply curve shifts to the left. Okay. So the question is asking, when there is a tax, who bears the higher burden? So how do we find the burden? Now this is the new equilibrium price. So how do we find the tax burden, guys? From our new equilibrium, we draw a line to our old supply curve and connect it to our price axis. So now we have two small boxes. Now this is the previous equilibrium. This over here is the new equilibrium. This is the price received by the producer. So if I'm highlighting, the one in blue is the consumer tax burden. Because earlier, let's say the consumer paid 10 rupees. Now let's say after a 5 rupee tax, he's paying 11 rupees. So consumer is bearing 1 rupee of the burden. Then how much is the producer bearing? He's bearing the remaining 4. So this will become 6. So this one over here that I'm highlighting, let's say in green, becomes what? The producer tax burden. I'm hoping you all know that theory area, guys. How is the up box consumer? How is the down box producer? So once you draw this, you will see this is how it is divided. You can see that the producer tax burden is higher. So remember, for a diagram alone, you will get 2 marks for a question like this. So is the diagram part clear now? Are you okay? If they, depending on the situation they give you, you have to draw the proper diagram. So here they are saying no inelastic supply. So you have to draw inelastic supply. Now this diagram can be so much different, right? They can say elastic supply, they can say perfectly elastic supply, they can say this, they can say that. And there are a lot of questions that we will do on this area in the fast track class. So others also keep that in mind. Then what is the explanation, guys? What can we write? Now for 2 marks, we have to explain something also. How do you think we can write this? Your explanation, guys, there is nothing big to write here. What you can do is, you can, show it like this. So you can say, now, but guys, what do you think the logic is? So supply is inelastic, no? So therefore, even when the price changes, he doesn't change his consumer. So he'll bear most of the tax, that kind of a thing. Let's see here. You can say, right, your explanation can be, in a situation where supply is inelastic, the producer would bear a higher portion of the tax. Okay, of the tax. This can be illustrated. This can be illustrated by the diagram below. So you draw the diagram, and in your diagram, you have to label. How do you label? You need to label that this area is the producer bond tax, and this area in this one is this is the consumer bond tax, this is the producer bond tax. You need to show that this is higher. So that kind of explanation is more than enough, guys. There is nothing this thing. And you can also say, right, given that supply is inelastic, maybe you can give a small conclusion as to a reason, right? Given that supply is inelastic, right, what does that mean? The producer is not very sensitive to a price change. Okay, therefore he would bear a higher proportion. You can give something like that, because he's not sensitive. He doesn't care. Even if the price changes, he will still supply the same quantity, inelastic. So with the tax, the price changes, so he doesn't care. He just goes on and supplies that same amount. So therefore he ends up bearing a higher portion of the tax. So something like that you can give. That there is nothing big to write in terms of a explanation here, guys. It's the diagram that you're going to get marks for. Sometimes they can even give you 3 marks for diagram and 1 mark for an explanation. Is that okay? Fine. Okay, you need to know whatever situation that they give, you need to know to draw. Same thing with subsidy as well. Okay, they can give it to you for subsidy also. If the supply was inelastic, what would happen to subsidy benefit? If the supply was elastic, what would happen? If demand was elastic, demand was inelastic, demand was unitary elastic, supply is elastic and demand is inelastic, they can, complex it as much as possible. So I'll give you a question for homework. Okay. See if you can, now once you study these questions, you all will do it, right? So I'll give you a question. Okay. I'll change the same question. Okay. Now this is where your studying comes into play. In a situation where supply is elastic and demand is perfectly elastic, okay, show how no, wait, let me word it. In a situation where supply is elastic and demand is perfectly elastic, how would the subsidy benefit be divided among each party if the government decides to grant a unit subsidy on production, on the product? Okay, so I'm asking you, there is a subsidy on the product. Okay, government is imposing a subsidy on the product. So when the government puts a subsidy on the product in a situation where demand is perfectly elastic and supply is elastic, I want you to draw and explain how does it work. So think on that for homework and see. I think if you can handle something like that, this area, you're completely fine. We'll do questions similar to in the fast track also, but this is the one. Second point again, this one. Okay. So remember guys, usually now what is the logic behind why someone, easy way to figure out is, now let's say the consumer is inelastic. Okay, no, supply is not inelastic, supply is elastic, demand is perfectly elastic. Okay, I'm combining both. You draw and figure it out. Okay, right. So once again guys, why is this inelastic person getting the higher burden? Now for example, let's say, okay, I'll explain it to you this way. Okay, now I recently explained this for my 2024 class students also. Okay, now we'll take our fast track classes that I do. Class fees that I am charging is 4,000 yes, supply is, okay, right, is elastic, not inelastic. Okay, so let's say I'm charging 4,000 a month. Okay, now government comes and says, Arshad, look here, for every student that you are teaching, I am going to put a 1,000 rupee tax on you. What is the government saying? Okay, 2,000 rupee tax. Arshad, government is saying, Arshad, for every fast track student that you have, government is going, I'm going to charge a 2,000 rupee tax. Now, let's say that the demand for these fast track classes are inelastic. That means now even if I increase the price, you will still come for the class because A levels is also nearing. You have no other option. Fast track class has a lot of benefits. Study plan is there. Everything is there. So your demand is inelastic. It's like an essential good now for you. Your demand is inelastic. What do you think I would do from the tax that the government puts? Now, I know that your demand is inelastic. If the government comes and says, Arshad, now you have to pay a 2,000 rupee tax for every student, what do you think I would do next month, guys? What do you think I would do to my fees? Think. I would now put the burden on you, right? Now I will say, look here, students, this Gota, what the fellow did, right? This fellow came and now put a tax on me also, right? Very sorry, can't do. From next month onwards, your class fees is 5,500. What did I do? From the 2,000 rupee tax, I transferred 1,500 to you. Why? Because I know your demand is inelastic. I know even if I charge a high price, you will still come to my class. Got it? So when you're inelastic, I soon pass the burden to you. But let's say it's the other way around. Let's say, for example, there are so many teachers doing a fast track class now. Okay, there are so many closed substitutes for this class. My demand is highly elastic. Now, if I increase price a little, you all will soon go to another teacher. Now, what do you think I would do? If the government comes and puts a tax of 2,000 rupees for me, now I will bear most of it, right? I will bear most of that, and maybe 500 rupees of that I will pass to you. I will say, look, dear students, 2,000 rupee tax now government is charging. Never mind, I will bear 1,500. You pay 4,500. You're paying 500 more now. Got it? That is the logic behind this inelastic and tax. So the moment you're inelastic, you end up bearing a higher portion because soon it gets passed on to you. That kind of a thing. Fine. Step. Is that okay? Right. Okay. That's the logic behind it. Have a basic idea. Again, things guys you all can read and figure out. Right. These are things that I also, during A levels we read. Right. So why is this like always when you have a why, Google. And the best thing that you can do is you can ask ChatGPT. So we'll ask ChatGPT and see if ChatGPT knows. A lot of things I also use ChatGPT for office work. Also, I use ChatGPT, right, for writing reports, and that is my work. So you ask and see. So when right, so you ask ChatGPT and see when demand is inelastic. Demand is inelastic. Why does the consumer bear a higher proportion of the tax? Sometimes they give you nonsense answers, but sometimes it gives you valid answers. Okay, you can read and see. So it will give you a proper answer. I think it makes sense though. So it talks about here producers can pass on a portion, but they might not be able to pass the entire burden, right? So ChatGPT is free, guys. You can create a free account and you can do it. So any question ask. When I also have complex questions, I also ask. But ChatGPT doesn't have latest data, so it might not have like the current trends and all. But theory areas it knows. Sometimes be very careful. Sometimes it gives you wrong answers, right? But most of the time you can figure it out. You can figure out whether it's right or wrong. Okay. Right. No, not advertising. I don't get paid though. I don't work for ChatGPT. Don't worry. I don't get any money if you use ChatGPT. Okay. Right. So question number 5. Coming into this. Following this thing, equilibrium price and quantity, consumer surplus, and producer surplus. Guys, can you all give me answers, guys? This one I don't think I have to handle for y'all. Equilibrium price and quantity. How much is the number? $13 and $48. Okay. So I'm going with your answers, guys. I'm not going to discuss this. I'm guessing that is very too easy, and if I discuss, I'm disgracing you all. So how much do we get? Price I am getting is 13 from most of you all. Where did it go? Price 13, quantity 72, 48. Okay, 48 is what I got the highest. The one who had 72, you can recheck. Consumer surplus, how much is it? Okay, consumer surplus is 288. The maximum demand price is 25. Okay. Producer surplus 192. Okay. Minimum supply price 5. Right. So I'm guessing you all can do that, and you all can show that on a graph, guys. I'm not going to draw it one by one. Okay. Can handle now. No equilibrium price, quantity, consumer surplus, producer surplus. Anyone? No one has issues there. Right. So how much do you think you would have got in this paper? 2015. First question was very easy. Factors held constant. Second question, income and substitution effect. Third question, distinguish between price flow and price leading. Fourth one was the little tricky one, the inelastic supply and tax. And the last one again, it's almost 3 marks. How much out of 20? At least 15? Remember, if you can at least get 15, guys, 15 into 5 is 75, right? 75 is a A. That's what I said for A-level econ, A is actually easy. From past papers alone, you can get A. Got it? So you do the past papers itself, you see the same questions coming, you can get A. So because A is 75. But we'll try to do more. Okay, that is done.